Hello, this is Dodie from Deliberate Aging. Welcome to my podcast. Do you know what Oxford University's word of the year for 2024 is? It's brain rot. And this term refers to the deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state caused by an overconsumption of information that is trivial and unchallenging. So just think of all the info that we see on social media. So this leads me to today's topic of brain health and how we can best protect our brains as we age. As our population ages, brain health and how it can be preserved has become a hot topic. So I picked up a book entitled The Alzheimer's Solution, a breakthrough program to prevent and reverse the symptoms of cognitive decline at every age by Drs. Dean and Ayesha Sherzai. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce their names. But personally, the idea of cognitive decline frightens me. So I wanted to do some research to figure out what, if anything, I could do to prevent, or at a minimum, slow down cognitive decline. So this book by Dr. Sherzai was enlightening because it provides hope that there are lifestyle changes that we can make that will have a positive impact on our cognition. They discuss the three main components that determine whether or not you will suffer from cognitive decline. These include your age, your genetic risk, and your lifestyle. Now, obviously the first two, your age and your genetic risk, you can't do anything about. However, your lifestyle is different. You are totally in control of that, and that's where the hope begins. So by making deliberate lifestyle choices, you can decrease your risk. Patients come to the doctor's clinic when they experience symptoms of memory loss and brain fog, but the deterioration started well before this. They state that the disease develops decades before noticeable symptoms appear. And during those decades before the symptoms appear, your choice of food, exercise, stress management techniques, sleep hygiene, and how you challenge your brain will have a dramatic impact on the future progression of the disease. So the doctors operate a clinic in Loma Linda. And if you haven't heard of this place, you should check it out if you're truly interested in healthy aging. It is America's only blue zone, which is an area where people live measurably longer, healthier lives as compared to the rest of the world. The blue zones will be a topic for a future podcast because it deserves to be discussed. It's really interesting stuff. But the doctor's findings come from multiple studies that are cited in the book, including there's a 40% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's in later life if you take brisk walks on a regular basis. This came from the Framingham longitudinal study. Another one is chronic stress leads to less production of new brain cells because of its effect on brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And also people with chronic sleep deprivation have more amyloid plaques in their brain, which is a key marker for Alzheimer's. They also found there is an inverse relationship between formal education and incidence of Alzheimer's. This suggests that sustained, challenging learning helps protect the brain. So the doctors found that people who followed a healthy lifestyle, which included a mostly plant-based diet, they did regular exercise, they used proper stress management, they had quality sleep, and they belonged to a community where they felt a sense of belonging, are more protected from cognitive decline than others who don't follow this lifestyle. Prevention is key, and it seems that the doctors found themselves at the right place since the main tenet of the Loma Linda University medical system is to keep people healthy and keep them out of the hospital. This is huge, and I'm totally on board with this premise, and it bears repeating. Prevention is key to sustained health. So some of their findings are that animal products, which include both meat and dairy, are bad for you and should be minimized. Number 2, exercise is important because it increases both the number of brain cells and the connections between those brain cells. Number 3, chronic stress is detrimental to cognitive health. 4, quality sleep is essential. 5, higher education and other complex cognitive activities are brain protective. And finally, 6, a sense of belonging, support, and engagement with friends, family, and community are crucial. So the doctors used all their research and designed a neuro plan that can help both your brain, but also your body, because they state that what helps one also helps the other. So anything that you do to protect, say, your heart, like your daily walk, will also have a protective effect on your brain. It's a total body approach to health. Now, they also believe that there's no one-size-fits-all approach, which I'm totally in agreement with. They believe that people need to find what works for them. They need to find a way to keep themselves accountable and find support to help them make any needed changes to their lifestyle. They also stress that you don't need to make a severe change. Any small change in the right direction will help. For example, you don't need to completely cut out all animal products from your diet. Maybe you start small and only practice meatless Mondays, and then expand from there when you're ready. Since both authors are medical doctors, they go into great detail about the 7 stages of cognitive decline that a person can pass through, which range from preclinical to the final stages of dementia. I will not go into any of these details here because I'm not a medical professional, but they do provide a self-assessment tool that can be used to determine where you are on the scale. So they designed a neuro plan with 5 main tenets. Number 1 is nutrition. They advocate for eating a mostly whole food, plant-based diet with good fats like omega-3s and limiting bad fats, sugar, and excess alcohol. Now, they provide a list of the top 20 foods to include in your diet, and it includes things such as beans, berries, avocados, broccoli, leafy greens, sweet potatoes, and mushrooms. On the flip side, there's also a list of foods to avoid, and includes sugar, processed, and fried foods. The book also has an entire chapter of suitable recipes to try. So one of my favorites is the bean and lentil chili, which I modified to my taste. But basically I made a meatless chili with lots of beans and veggies, and it was really good. Also, the avocado dressing is a winner, and the sweet potato mash is very good. So the second tenet is exercise. Move your body regularly. And it doesn't have to be a trip to the gym every day. It can be something as simple as just walking or gardening, and that counts as exercise. Number 3 is unwind. Do something to manage your stress, something healthy. Don't reach for a glass of wine. Instead, do something like yoga, meditation, a walk in nature, maybe even a warm bath. Next point is restore. Get the best quality sleep possible by following good sleep hygiene habits. The last tenet of the neuro plan is optimize, and this refers to brain function. Optimize your brain function by providing challenging things as often as possible. So at one time, we were told Sudoku and puzzles were considered a cure for dementia, and they might be helpful to a certain degree. However, once they became routine and easy for you, they're no longer challenging enough to optimize your brain function. You need to keep providing new, challenging things for your brain. So by incorporating all or some of the 5 items from the neuro plan, you can help activate neuroplasticity, which is a term that means that you can rewire your brain and improve its cognitive functionality. So I have a question for you. What motivates you? Imagine that you do something that has an immediate positive impact. How motivating is that as compared to doing something that doesn't have an immediate impact? So let me give an example. I occasionally cook stuffed grape leaves for my family, and my Cypriot friends would know this as goubepia. The family loves these since I use my mother-in-law's recipe, which is amazing, but it takes time, a couple of hours start to finish. At the end of this time, there is the satisfaction of having a great meal that I know my whole family loves. So in this case, the payoff or the positive impact of my actions is fairly quick. I cook, and then I enjoy the fruits of my labor. On the flip side, there are the things that I do that don't provide immediate gratification, such as exercise. I can't work out once and expect to have 6-pack abs. I can't do 1 hour of cardio and expect to lose 10 pounds. I need to exercise consistently over time, and then I'll see the payoff over a period of weeks, months, or even years. the motivation that it takes to do something like this is entirely different than the first example. So how does this relate to today's topic of brain health? Well, the things that are recommended for brain health won't have an immediate impact. So personally, I follow many of the recommendations from the Dr. Sherzai, but don't know yet if they're having a positive impact on my cognition. However, I trust the process and the science behind it, and I assume that they're having a positive impact on both my brain health and my entire body, so I will keep doing these things. Now, the authors stress that brain health is a lifelong process, and your lifestyle choices from an early age will have an impact on your future brain. But they also point out that it's never too late to start making positive changes. So if you remember back to the beginning of this podcast, I told you about Oxford's word of the year and its definition, brain rot, which is caused by consuming too much trivial and unchallenging information. The question is, can we prevent brain rot by consuming meaningful, challenging information? And the definition suggests that this is definitely a possibility, and also the work by the Dr. Sherzai also supports this. So, question for you, what are you doing to protect your brain? Is anyone out there worried about the future of their brain? And are you willing to do anything about it now? So personally, I favor a plant-based diet with limited meat and, for the most part, no dairy. I try to limit sugar and alcohol. I exercise most days of the week. I do yoga and meditation to manage my stress. And I volunteer at a local food bank to feel support and a sense of community. I am fortunate in that I've always had good sleep hygiene because basically I know myself. I am not a nice person to be around if I don't get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. I also consistently try to learn new things that challenge me. So a couple of examples. I started ballroom dancing at the ripe old age of 50. I started this podcast only recently with no prior knowledge of how to do this. So my call to action for all of you this week is to share your experiences. What are you doing to protect your brain? So head over to my Facebook page. You'll find the link in the show notes, or simply search Facebook for Deliberate Aging and let me know, what are you doing to protect your brain? Next week's episode is entitled Book Club, and you might be wondering, how does book club relate to healthy aging? So tune in next week and I'll show you how. Thanks for listening. This is Dodie from Deliberate Aging. Until next time, be well, friends. This podcast is presented solely for informational and educational purposes only. Use of information from this podcast is at the user's own risk. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of your physician or other qualified professional. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from use of this podcast.